You can also take another.
Okay, I'd like to, it's 6:30, so I'd like to call to order the Board of Select Persons meeting tonight on July 16th, 2024. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So we have four board members here, and we have Barbara Allen participating. She was able to do that. She was called away on a family emergency. So she is able to join us by Zoom tonight. So there'll be 5 voting. At all of our meetings, first of all, has everyone that's here signed in? If you haven't, would you come and sign in? So we'll have it. This is the time when if there's anyone that has public comment, this is for some comment or something you want to bring before the board that's not on our agenda tonight, but you'd like to let us know about. We would, in general, would not be taking any action tonight, but we would bring it forward to a subsequent meeting. So is there anyone here that has public comment? Yes.
Hi, I'm Tom Struzneski, and I have 3 small things I'd like to address.
Okay.
Shouldn't take too long. One, mowing of the weeds on the side of the road. It's getting to be a hazard for visibility. It's a pain in the neck for dog walkers and other people.
Okay.
Why this isn't standard to be done twice a year as a matter of town policy, I don't understand. It's the same problem at the end of June, beginning of July every year. And of course, they have to be trimmed before the snow plowing season.
Mhm.
So if we could make a note to do that at those times, that would be great.
Okay. Lorna?
I spoke with Jason, our road commissioner today, and he has already scheduled that to
Okay,
happen.
good, all right.
Check.
Okay, 1 down. Okay, the other thing I'd like to bring to the board's attention. I live on the Location Road in Belgrade. That's off the Wings Mills Road. Directly across from the Location Road is the Millstream Road. Millstream Road has, I think, 10 houses on it, 11 houses, something like that. Dead straight for half a mile, plenty of visibility, 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. The Location Road and the little roads off it, Meadowbrook Drive, Meadowbrook Lane, Barnott Way. There are about 70 houses back there roughly. The speed limit on that road is 35 miles an hour, and there are 3 blind corners. One of which with an intersection and kids living at that intersection. 35 is way too fast on that road with the visibility. Can we erect a 25-mile-an-hour sign? And can we also, put up a children playing or something of that nature as well? But yeah, 35, people fly down that road at 50, and it's, you got dog walkers, soon to be geriatric, people walking, kids on bicycles, tractors, snowmobiles, the whole business, and we need to slow people down there. So if we could do that, that would be great.
Okay.
The other question I had, this has been brought up, there's money put aside for a public works property.
Mhm.
Has there been any progress on that?
I do not know that we have moved ahead on that, but we'll check and get back at the next meeting to see where we're at.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, sooner.
I mean, I don't want to speak without fully checking that out to make sure.
Of course you do. I would expect you to.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And so that's all I have.
Okay. All right. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Are there any other comments?
Just bear in mind, if we do the speed thing, we're probably gonna have to go through the state again, just like we just did.
Right.
And you may take a chance of actually having them increase your speed. They did that on one of the roads that we're looking at their decrease.
They already did a speed thing and that's when it got reduced to 35, because it was 45.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we'll have to do it again, but they
Yeah.
may not be
How long ago was it?
It was a while ago, it was quite a while ago.
Yeah, there's been a lot more houses.
10
put on
years,
there since
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
anyway, yes,
Do you still have the monitor that, you used when we got the speed limit changed on West Road? I was told that the monitor was, purchased by the town, so do you still have it? Not to my.
I don't believe we purchased that, does anyone, I thought that was the
I thought it-
state's,
I thought it was a state. It was given to the town by the state.
oh, it's
It's
given
a,
to,
it's a piece of town equipment.
So that should be, still be used around town, especially on the West Road.
okay. We'll pass that through and see where we come on that. Any other public comments? Yes,
I'm Kathy McKelway. I wanted to ask why the reserve fund balance that you carry is so high. So you have about $5.8 million in your reserve account, which is about $2,300 for every resident, every voter in Belgrade. And I'm wondering why you carry so much in reserve. I know the school board is the school budget is the biggest part of the town's budget. But the school has its own reserve. So $6 million with $4 million out of your annual $10 million budget is about what you spend compared to the school. I'm just wondering why you carry so much. So my taxes went up by about $1,100 in this most recent assessment. But you've already got $2,300 of, if it was per voting person, you've already got $2,300 of dollars that you have collected from me in the past that are sitting in your reserve fund. And I'm just wondering if you could think about putting a policy in place for what you hold in reserves and maybe let the town know why it's such a big amount. It's more than a year's worth of your expenditures outside of the school budget.
okay, I think tonight when we go through some of our documents and we're talking, we will talk about those reserve accounts. So if you don't mind, I'd like to hold that till
Thank you so
then,
much.
okay? Anthony?
So while the select board can't address this right now, because you're just
Huh?
accepting public comments, I can, and so there's a distinction between the general fund balance and capital reserves. The capital reserves have all been approved by the voters. And so it's there because the voters have approved that for future capital purchases such as fire trucks, fire stations, and so on.
But if you have $6 million or money set aside for the fire station, you just ask the voters to approve the full cost of the fire station by an increased assessment plus a bond.
Ma'am, I don't think that there's $6 million in the fire station capital reserve.
There is, there is not, but I think if we can move along, we get to that discussion and it gets into the
Great.
piece, we'll address it then. Anyone else? The only thing I would like to say is, we had a wonderful, incredibly successful July 3rd, 4th, and 5th celebration in town. And I would like to, note to the business group that sort of, partially dissolved itself and they got themselves reinvigorated and asked that the town send a thank you to the Belgrade Regional Business Group for all of their efforts in putting together the parade and the boat parade and all the things that they did. I heard nothing, I haven't ever seen so many people that happened to be in the village part of the town. The fireworks were well attended, and just a thank you. It's Kristen Livingstone is the president of that group. And just say thank you for a job well done. Yeah. If there's nothing else, that takes us through public comment. We'd like to approve the minutes of the July 3rd and the July 15th meeting. What did I say? July 3rd, I'm sorry, July 2nd. So I move we approve the minutes from July 2nd. Seconded by Melanie. Any discussion on the board? Anyone find any additions or anything? Okay, all in favor, Melanie?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes,
And I'll vote yes, so that's 5 yeses. And then, approval, I move that we approve the minutes from the executive session for July 15th.
Second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor, Melanie?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, so that takes us through that, okay. What I would like to do at this time, before we go into unfinished business, we do have committee appointments. We have a couple of folks that are with us. And I think we'll probably have a longer discussion of the tax pieces. So with permission, I would move that we move the committee appointments and resignations to our next order of business.
I'll second that.
Second that.
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor, Barbara?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Okay. So we like to be respectful of people's time, so. We get over to that section. So for appointments, is Corbin Finland here?
Corbin is on.
He's on Zoom.
Yes,
He's
I
on-
am.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
All right, so Corbin Finland, we have your application for appointment for the committee, long-term strategic planning committee, Center for All Seasons, I believe is what we're calling. Could you just tell us your interest in that and we'll move forward?
Well, I'm interested because Corey Alexander was called me and asked me with a nice please, would I be on it? And I thought that if I could do something that would be contributing to the community, I would be happy to do that, so.
Okay, so for those of you who do not know, Corbin has over 50 years' experience in the construction trade. So will certainly be a help as we look at some of those pieces. So I move that we appoint Corbin Finland to the Center for All Seasons
Second that.
Strategic Committee. Second, any discussion? All in favor, Melanie?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Thank you very much, Corbin, for being willing to participate, and you will just need to stop in the office so Mary can swear you in.
Okay,
On Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday, but don't come tomorrow.
okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Corbin.
Have a good night.
Yes. Okay, and the next one is for Charlene Hool, looking to be appointed to the Senior Resource Committee. Charlene, why would you like to do that?
Well, being a senior citizen, but I do have lots of crafty thoughts and ideas that might help, give some new ideas for things to do.
Yeah.
And she makes great.
And she's a great cook.
Yes.
She can teach them all how to make one-pie cake.
She can practice on
taste
us.
it.
Yeah.
And when can I join?
Yeah.
I'm so close.
Yes. Okay, I move that we appoint Charlene to the Senior Resource Committee.
I will wholeheartedly second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, Melanie,
Heck,
Peter,
Heck, yeah.
Dan,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, and thank you for coming back in service to the town of Belgrade again. We appreciate it.
Thank you,
nobody
Charlene.
ever really retired, should it?
Yeah. And remember that you do need to come and have Mary swear you in. Okay, and then we have, I'm probably gonna ruin this name, Richard von Eiderstein. Is Richard here?
Yes,
Yes.
He's just on mute.
Muted.
Oh, he's muted, okay. We have a, application for Richard to join the Senior Resource Committee. Richard, could you give us just a little heads up on your interest in this committee?
Sure. Well, you probably know my wife Patty, who's a member of the community center and the regional, the regional health center. We moved here just a few years ago and we're looking to establish ourselves and both retire in the area. And I can probably represent one end of the distribution of retired folks because I'm heading that way. And I grew up in Maine and been away for a long time, but now we're back. And I was asked when I was voting if I I'd considered it, and at first I thought, what senior you're talking to? And then I remembered, that's me. So I thought, well, sure. Yeah, I've done other things in the area, but I've never been on the senior resource committee, so I might have some ideas.
Okay, well, thank you very much for volunteering to do that. I move that we appoint Richard von Eiterstein to the Senior Resource Committee.
Second?
Second, any discussion? All in favor, Barbara,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, so that's 5 yeses. If you would just make sure you stop in and see Mary, and welcome aboard and welcome to working within our community. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Says hi.
Okay, I will.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so that brings us now, we move, we open unfinished business.
Second.
And our first item is the citizens petition. So, Lorna, do you want to start us?
Sure, you reviewed this at your last meeting, but we didn't have a full board, so you tabled it to this one. We did receive a petition from one of our residents. I can't, without looking how many signatures, 272. So the board has the opportunity to review and make a decision tonight on this. The board can approve the petition and move it forward. If you do an open town meeting warrant, you need to call the meeting within 60 days. It doesn't mean you have to do the meeting within 60 days, just you have 60 days to say yes and set that date going forward. Secret ballot, there are special requirements for that. I know.
They just have to be notified 60 days in advance, and absentee ballots would have to be able to be ready 30 days prior to the secret ballot election, consideration of public hearing notifications.
Public hearing is 10 days, right?
Right, yeah. So historically, we've always done it 10 days prior to the release of the absentee ballots. We don't necessarily have to. It can be done within 10 days of the actual vote, but if you want your voters to vote educated, me, it's best to hold your public hearing prior to the release of your absentee ballots.
Agreed. So your second option would be to refuse the petition, meaning you would not put it forward. And the town does currently have a senior volunteer work program in place, an ordinance which was put in effect 2010. It was set up as a supplement to the state of Maine sponsored tax rebate program. You could write a new ordinance to replace the one currently in place, or do nothing as the state provides several programs, to include one specifically for property tax or rent paid, which is the property tax fairness credit.
Okay. How does anyone feel on moving the petition forward? I guess I would start by saying, one of the things that apparently is in conflict with state law is the tax privacy section. We are required by law to publish, folks that have unpaid and delinquent taxes. So I have a hard time approving a petition that is in violation of state law. I'm speaking for myself, but my thought is that we instead of moving this forward, that we put together one that, because we can't change anything. The petition's here, we have to do the whole thing. Is that perhaps we look to come back in 60 days with an ordinance that we work on, that we work with the budget committee, so that we can have it ready for town meeting to put forward. So that's my thoughts on it. I don't know if anyone else. has thoughts on it. Before we go to
So
Peter?
from my perspective, I think this idea. As the petitioners brought forward, I get the intent, at least I think I understand the intent. But from my perspective, it could be just the mechanics that are listed in the petition that make it difficult to bring it forward. As was noted, the part that's not in alignment with state law. So I just wanted to say that up front for everyone.
Right, I mean, I think we have enough interest in it that we need to do something. So, anyone else have a comment? Let me just check with the board and then we'll go to the. No,
Barbara has her.
Barbara?
Yeah,
Yes.
I would be interested to know what other towns have enacted something like this and how it's working out for those other towns. And also, what is the potential, how this would affect our tax receipts on an annual basis, and whether the $2.5 million fund that's been requested is too high, too low. It's requesting a $2.5 million program fund. And I questioned whether we would be basically losing $2.5 million in tax receipts each year, and how we determine what the potential might be.
Okay. Anyone have? Okay, we had a hand up. Hiding behind Tom.
So the section 6 of this.
Oh, I'm sorry, would you just state your name for the record?
Carol Crothers. I had an attorney draft this ordinance. So section 6, which talks about the confidentiality of tax records, is really clear that state law takes precedence. So it's notwithstanding any other part of the law. So the law that says you gotta do it would take precedence. So it's not an illegal part of this. It's not illegal from the attorney who wrote its perspective. Second, the $2.5 million appropriation is a one-time appropriation to start the fund, and not an annual appropriation that the town would do every year. And
Okay. Bruce?
Bruce Blush. So if that's a one-time fund, you put in that 2.5 million, how do you keep that fund funded? Is my question.
I believe it's from the surplus. Each year after 2025, any surplus collected beyond 3% of the municipal budget, not including funds for the school, will be transferred from the town's undesignated fund balance to the program fund.
So if you don't have that, then what?
I believe it says, I'm not sure where it is. If we don't have any money, we can't transfer it. I believe that's what it says.
So you'd have to raise and appropriate to keep that fund, keep this ordinance going, if you don't have that in there. Or does this ordinance go away, you know, if it passed, would it go away?
Because if we're raising and appropriated, it's going to come out of your property taxes.
Correct.
So it's kind of intuitive.
Right, so you raise and appropriate out of property taxes, the people that would benefit from this ordinance would get a refund. The ones that don't benefit from this ordinance is gonna pay the difference.
It would be a tax up.
So it'd be unfair taxation.
In addition, we don't have 2.5 million to pull from undesignated. We would have to take a TAN and pay interest, take out a loan in order to fund,
Right.
pay our bills. If you look at the snapshot I included at the end of the board packet, June 30th, in our checking account, we had 2.5 million. We have dedicated monies for special revenue accounts, 647,000. And then the legislative body has voted and approved several reserve accounts, as Anthony explained earlier, in the amount of 3.4 million. The board knows you can't spend that money, you can't pull it to fund the program. And you're not gonna touch the special revenue accounts either. Bar Harbor is separate account, 1.4 million, but those monies you don't touch for daily expenses. Those are dedicated funds as well. So you got your cemetery.
I was gonna say, would you say what those dedicated funds are for? So people know.
If this is something that we're reading from, can we provide it so that the folks in the audience also see what we have?
That's a good question.
You have this?
No, that's, you're talking about.
I'm just talking in general. Does anyone here have this snapshot?
Well,
that
that's-
they're reading?
If they pulled it from the board packet, they would, but if they didn't, maybe send it.
Sorry. Okay, so, we will get this and then back.
Excuse me, the unrestricted fund is restricted.
It is not an unrestricted.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Sorry, it's not an unrestricted fund.
It's called unrestricted in your accountant statement.
Undesignated.
Undesignated.
Okay.
So the
Undesignated, so your
undesignated,
undesignated fund is designated.
Well, it's undesignated, but within that are certain funds that are designated, and if I did my math right, which I will. Right on June 30th, if we had to fund every account that has been set aside, we would be short $1.5 million.
So
Because the taxes have not yet come in, so we're technically in the red. We use that money for a float. That prevents us from having to borrow the money to pay it.
I used to be on a school board, so
Okay.
I understand. So when you need $6 million for float?
there's not $6
Fine,
million.
there's
not $6 million here.
Designated fund. So I think part of what may have happened was at last town meeting. And there was a committee member who stood up and essentially said the town had $8 million. We don't have $8 million, it's undesignated. So, and it sounded like we're super flush. And I'd like to think that we play fairly tight to the budget. I mean, I think I'm always preaching, we need to run it like it's a one-income household. Because that's what we need to do. So some of those funds are savings accounts towards future purchases. So that the taxpayers don't get a big hit all at once.
I can, and I look through the numbers, I can see that you do have funds set aside for specific purchases, but it's not $6 million. I mean, 5.87.
Well, this snapshot will give you,
Oh, that'd be
will,
great. Thank
I
you
think
so
will
much.
help a little.
Gotcha.
A little of that. The other, there's another piece to this is, and I believe I'm correct, that the leftover money from the fire department, if they have budgeted money and the leftover that goes to the fire department reserve, the same with the Center for All Seasons, their recreation funds. And I believe the library, am I correct?
I don't know if she's
So-
hearing.
Yeah, better wait.
Give her a minute, so they just get that snapshot.
So, where there are funds that are already designated where they go, that funding of 3% of the overage, some of those funds are already designated on where they go, so that would be a piece we need to work around. So, so just looking at the snapshot, the Bar Harbor Trust accounts are dedicated, and those we don't. Those are just set aside separately. The reserve account of 3.4, and then the special reserve accounts of 647,000. You add the two of those together, and I did it right, you're at 4,068. So, and then if you subtract out of that what we have in our checking account, so we've set aside or designated roughly 4 million. And in our checking account, we only have $2,551 and so on, $551,630.92 to go offset that as of June 30th. And that's when we're really at a low point because our taxes have not yet come in. So that shows that at that point, we were short, for lack of a better word, $1.5 million. So I don't know if this helps show where those monies are. Anthony,
So to speak to the question, you can't spend out of the undesignated fund unless you have the approval of the legislative body. So it's not just a pot of money there that you guys can do with what you want. The attorney who drafted this has no idea how the town of Belgrade is financed, because section 5 calls for 60 days notice of the percentage increase of property tax. Well, the fiscal year begins January 1. We don't have the town meeting until after 60 days after that. The assessments, which help determine what your mill rate is, isn't set until April the 1st. And then the county and the school budgets, which actually account for 80%, actually a little bit more than 80% of your mill rate, aren't set until June. And then your taxes are committed in July. And then you start collecting taxes in July and August. And so when you look at the audit report and it says, here's what your fund balance is, that's an artificially high number, because it represents almost the zenith of what your tax collections are. And what we're actually doing, because we collect taxes 3/4 of the way through our fiscal year, we're actually paying taxes in 2024 that are going to fund 2025. So as Peter said, the mechanics of this don't work. Additionally, I thought this was interesting. The way that this is written calls for anyone who makes 350% of the federal policy level to qualify for 15% tax rate. So if they apply, so a single taxpayer, a single person household would earn $52,710 at 350%. A 2-person household would earn $71,540. My sensibility tells me that if someone's earning $52,000 a year in a single person household, they should be able to afford their taxes. The $2.5 million appropriation that would be set aside for this would bankrupt the town, as you guys have just explained, because again, that number that you see in the audit report is artificially high because of the timing of when our fiscal year begins and when we collect taxes. Not only that, if you did that, you're going to limit the town's ability to cash fund capital improvements. So I've always been impressed that Belgrade cash funds its fire trucks and the big vehicles and other ambulances and other big capital items. You don't have to finance it. You take $2.5 million out, then you're going to start financing it, and then it's going to cost taxpayers even more money. So it was Tom Dowd who, as I was town manager, convinced me that that money that was sitting in the undesignated fund needed to be put to good public use. And the way that we determined to do that was to dedicate a certain amount of that each year to those capital reserves, so that when we were ready to buy the fire truck, when we were ready to buy the ambulance, we had that already stashed aside. Again, 80.4% of our taxes go to school and county. Something the town has no control over whatsoever. None, zero. Okay, well then this argument ought to be made to your legislators or to the school board as opposed to the town. So my wife and I don't pay an insubstantial amount of money for the amount for 2 properties that we own here. As I emailed the board at one point, this year, I just wrote the check the other day, we paid $6,047 in property taxes, not an insubstantial amount of money. However, of that, less than $1,200 goes to the town. And for that, we make liberal use of the transfer station, conduct all of our business here at the town office. We are very thankful for our road commissioner and road paving program and our snowplow contractor. Thank God the fire and rescue department is there. Should we ever need them? We make use of the recreation department and the library. For $1,200 a year, that is an absolute bargain for the amount of services that we get. Your job is to protect us from bad public policy. This is bad public policy. However, if you want to do something in this regard, then I would suggest that you look at, and I'll be happy to provide copies, the ordinance that the town of Freeport just adopted in April. It was in one of the most recent editions of Town and City Magazine, from the MMA. But here's some important differences between, and a lot of this reads, I suspect your attorney probably copied a lot of what's in the Freeport ordinance. But here's some major differences in that. Under the Freeport ordinance, which I think we can all agree, Freeport is a fairly affluent community, right?
Yes.
And so the cap on the tax break is $750. That's the total amount of any increase to the applicant's benefit based from the most recent tax year to the current tax year. The maximum is $200. So if you apply for this and your taxes have gone up $200, the most you can see your break jump is $200. But they set the cap at 250% of the federal poverty level. And then they have a tiered a level, so that if you're earning 226 to 250%, the applicant will receive $300, 200% to 225%, $400, and so on. It does say also that payments under this article shall be conditioned upon the existence of sufficient monies in the program fund. So in other words, you set that, the governing body in Freeport sets that money aside. And once it's gone, it's gone. It's based upon the sufficient funds as determined by the council. And so those tax breaks may be prorated. Annually, their town council is called upon to evaluate the program and determine whether it needs more money, less money, whatever the amount is. One last thing, the criteria for participation, applicants shall have reached their full Social Security retirement age. So in other words, this is meant to benefit seniors who are no longer in the workplace, you know, and maybe you're living on a fixed income. They have to have a homestead within the town of Freeport for at least 5 years. And they have to have no more than $500,000 in combined assets other than their primary residence. Those are all safeguards to make sure that people who can't afford their taxes aren't taking advantage of the ordinance. I'll leave these copies with Lorna, but that's a much more sensible ordinance than what you have in front of you right now.
Yes, in the back. Tom.
What Mr. Wilson said, but I'd like to add as well that over the years, I've been in Belgrade, 30 years now, and watching how the
newcomer,
towns run. I'm sorry, what was that?
Just a newcomer?
Yeah. I'm from away, I'm a flatlander, okay, we got that out of our system, everybody done now, okay. One of the great things that Belgrade has done is get away from the big TANF bills and build the reserve account slowly, so that, as Mr. Wilson said, we're having a fire truck, we're not bonding for it, right? We don't have to go out and get a loan for $600,000. We don't have to borrow $1 million to make sure we can make payroll until the tax money start coming in. And just like your house, you know, if you live paycheck to paycheck to paycheck and you own a home, many people have to do that because of economic circumstances. But if you don't have to do that, and you can put a little money aside, when the well pump goes, you know, you're not running to the store for bottled water to wash your hair, right? So, and that money, as Mr. Wilson and others have said, it's not all there to spend. It's not just free money sitting in a pot. It is actually earmarked for bills, even though it's not designated for specific reserve accounts.
Any other comments? Tom?
An observation, I think part of what's driving this, the root cause is, for example, and I don't remember the current year numbers, but I remember the prior year, the appropriation at town meeting was an increase of 29% and a 17% raise to taxes. So I think, you know, double-digit increases to the budget are basically what's causing, I think, the symptom there, or the problem that we're now seeing in petition. And I know that was a big increase from the town's perspective. The county is in my opinion, totally outrageous, you know, I think they're over 30%. And the trouble is, it seems to be every year after year. And double digit increases, you know, are really starting to impact people.
Right.
And as an aside, I used to have this discussion with Dennis Ketchel. You know, by policy was trying to build the undesignated fund, so he wouldn't have to borrow money during the year. And I used to say, Dennis, I said, you're grabbing an extra $1,000 in taxes from me, so you don't have to borrow the 1,000, but you'd only have to pay $4, let's say, to borrow it. I have to pay the whole 1,000. So it's.
Banks are for. That's why you have a working capital line of credit, so that when you have a shortfall, sorry, I'm sorry.
So, I mean, there's a trade-off there.
Lorna?
And I think we don't realize how many state mandates there are for schools and county services that are not funded. And they get passed on to the taxpayer. So when we see a large increase for our schools and for the county budget, oftentimes a big part of it is that, not all of it. But I think we should keep that in mind too. And I don't think many people went to vote for the school budget, did they, to ratify it?
We had a very poor turnout, yeah, 330 people,
Right.
and that was included in the primary.
I don't think I ever even heard what the percentage increase was in the school budget.
The ballot didn't even say how much we were voting for.
We were almost, between county and school, we were almost $1 million increase.
Increase.
It was
But
Yeah.
an increase between
Yeah.
the county and the school.
I think, yeah,
I mean. At
That's
least in past years, I mean, I thought the RSU 18's been fairly reasonable increases. I don't know what it was the current year.
for us, they were up. I want to say 750.
I don't know what that is in percentage.
I thought it was around 500. I
500,000.
thought it was 500 for both.
I know
the
both
school
of
and
them,
500
I know
for
both of
county.
them
There's a
were
million.
somewhere around $1
There's a
million.
million.
But if you look at, the breakdown. On your tax bill, county tax is 10.7% of the budget, municipal is 19.6%. And then school is 69.6%. So the municipal budget is only 19.6% out of the
Well,
big picture.
see, that's part of what. I don't want to offend anybody, but it kind of irritates me that I keep hearing, oh, the town of Belgrade's, you know, such a small portion of the tax. You know, so, okay, so let's appropriate 29% more than last year. I mean, that's not responsible.
Tom, you know, I take exception to that because that includes the amount that was moved from the designated, from the general fund balance, the undesignated fund into the capital reserves. And I don't think that you can, that's just moving money from one account to the other. I don't think it should be counted as an additional appropriation.
Okay, so let's, you know, so the lower number was raising 17%. I mean, I think most people would agree a 17% increase is substantial.
And I don't think anyone would disagree with you, Tom, but how much of that is attributable to municipal expenses versus school and county expenses? And I understand.
This was town meeting, so this was purely Belgrade.
Well, when you talk about the tax appropriation, though, I mean, the tax appropriation includes the school and the county.
I'm only talking town of Belgrade. I'm not talking county, I'm not talking RSU 18. I'm talking Belgrade, which is the people in this room.
There was a larger, we hadn't taken a increase for a while.
This year.
We did, this year was 6.5, the year before was.
We also added additional positions.
We added position and we brought people, we were losing people, not able to maintain people, so we did increase payroll.
And
Increase
again, if you guys want to do something with this, you've got a template for how to do
Right.
this. This
I,
is not the right thing to do. I mean, it's.
I I don't disagree with you. I think, but we need to hear what people want and what they're feeling, because people are feeling this, and I think we need to hear their voices. And then I think we need to make a decision. Yes, sir.
Yes, Mike Rowe. I asked us the same question last time, down at the fund balance policy. Did you happen to do that? Because I mean, I come from a municipal style operation. That's what my career was. And we had a fund balance policy. Communities surround us, every single town has a fund balance policy. And I got the opinion Belgrade doesn't have one.
There isn't one, but we go by the standard 3 months. 3 months of expenses.
General accepted accounting practices.
Yes,
Yeah.
3 months of
Yeah, I mean, that
expenses.
could be anywhere from 1 to 3 months, and I mean, it's undesignated fund, that's what it's for, in case something in the system goes really bad, and just like anybody else, it's a savings account, you can just rely on. It's not, you know, it's undesignated, it's not designated whether it be for salaries or to a capital fund or anything else. I think you should consider adopting the fund balance policy. I think you can make it clear to the taxpayers where the dollar is sitting. I mean, I'm very familiar with snapshots. They dealt with financial statements a lot, so
Yeah.
that's just what they are. They're a snapshot, that's all they are. They're not telling me really a whole lot. You know, on the big picture, on the year.
Yeah.
Fiscal year picture.
Melanie?
So Mike, the undesignated fund cannot be used for anything
I'm not saying that.
that's not designated. So we took a big hit at last town meeting with the $500,000 coming out of that for possibly some land for our future public works. I think it was because it wasn't clearly explained
Yeah.
what we actually had. So it felt like we just dropped $1 million. We didn't have $1 million to drop. So now there's $500,000 sitting over here for
I'm not asking you to
something.
do anything with it. All I'm talking about is having a policy, because you don't have a policy right now.
But you were
And
saying
that
that
makes it
designated
clear,
fund can pay salaries.
that makes it clear for every taxpayer what your fund balance policies are. I mean, it's common. I mean, you might have one in Winthrop. We do. You know, you have one in Oakland, you have one, I mean, I can Mercer. I can talk really small towns, 500 people, have fund balance policy. Nothing unusual about it.
I think that's
I'm
something.
not trying to be argumentative, I just think it makes it easier for the taxpayer to understand how the tax dollars are being handled.
And I think it's a point well taken and something we need to look at, absolutely. Bruce,
One question maybe for Lana, or maybe she can get clarification on it. I believe the municipal budget only went up 4.9%, possibly 5%.
This year.
Yes, it wasn't a 17% increase, it wasn't a 20-something increase, it was a 4.9 to a 5% increase for the town of Belgrade municipal budget.
that's this year, yeah,
This year,
that's
yeah.
correct.
It was under the LD one limit that we were at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's a good point.
yes,
Jonathan. I grew up in Maine, but I live in Louisiana right now, but I have a camp on Great Pond. So taxes are a big thing for me because it's waterfront property.
right.
But I've always wondered, why Belgrade pays more to the school budgets. When it's around.
We always-
Oh. The school budget was set up, the funding vehicle came from the legislature. And we pay, Rome and Belgrade pay a substantial amount more than the other 3 towns. And the only way that that will change is with some legislative changes.
So
And
that's a law, that you guys pay this percent, you guys pay.
well, it's the way in which they figure it out.
Right, and they did vote, what was it, 2 years ago to redo the formula. And the town of Belgrade was outvoted by other school board members.
Belgrade.
Well, we did it
The
this year.
formula as it is because it worked for them. So,
Everybody has waterfront property. It's got the best ones, you got Rome's part of the Great Pond, you got North Pond.
Right.
There's an opportunity to take a look at the funding formula every 5 years. I'm not sure when that comes back up.
We did look at it this
Yeah.
year,
This year.
and the vote was 9 to
I
6
remember
or
that,
something.
and I thought it was Belgrade that voted against it.
So
No.
Rome and Belgrade voted for it.
Oh, that was the one before? Okay, gotcha.
And the other three towns voted to keep it, which if you were a voter in those if you would probably have voted to keep it, because it's a pretty good gig.
And I will also state that the time prior, when it was voted down, was because there was not enough of a benefit to the town of Belgrade. It was intended to be brought back up and the formula reworked, and it didn't happen. So it was voted down because what was promised was not what was gonna be delivered.
Well, you had a couple members who let better get in the way of perfect.
Right.
So,
Perfect get in the way of
okay,
better.
I just have one more
any,
question.
oh, yes,
Because our taxes are based on assessment.
I'm
and
sorry?
mill rate. Our taxes are based on assessment and mill rates,
yeah,
but I've seen like 15 for mill rate before on my taxes. And that my taxes for that year were less than what they are now at a 9 mill rate. So it's confusing to me about how all
Right.
that's being determined.
That's because our assessor did factoring, so they brought the property valuations up closer to what they should be. They had not been done since 2010. 2010, 2014. So all of this time, all of the property valuations on paper were much lower than they should be. So that was brought up, but your mill rate dropped, but the valuations came up closer to what they should be. Does that make sense?
I know, but it seems like it's purposely done, keep the same taxes.
So also the reason that it was done is because we were losing our homestead and we were losing our veterans, so they were no longer being funded at 100%. And people, I don't know, you're from away, so you don't have a
I'm
homestead.
from Maine originally. I was born in Maine.
But we were dropping down and we're allowed to drop down 10% below. And actually, we're at 62% and we certified at 72%. So we were down that much in assessment according to the state and how they set their assessments. So we really had no choice because we're gonna be penalized even further if we didn't do the factor reval, which is just buying some time of a complete reval.
Excuse me, how does he do the factor? That is young woman's point. I mean, the taxes on the waterfront homes, crazy.
Yeah, you would have to talk to the assessor about how he calculated that, because I'm not really exactly sure.
Can we set up a meeting where the assessor comes in and talks about this?
You
Maybe for the
can,
residents meeting?
you can actually meet with the assessor one-on-one. Many people make appointments and come in and meet with Rob.
I think what he's asking though is if it's possible for the assessor maybe to have a residents meeting, like maybe.
we could certainly do that.
They come to our,
Summer
Yeah,
residents.
the summer resident meeting.
Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah,
Right, exactly.
So
I
that
mean,
he could
all this stuff
explain
just
what is
you
it
don't
called
know.
to read out? And why do we have to do it and what does it look like and how did this?
we could certainly include that, yeah. Tom?
Yeah, there's I think it's state law that within so many years, your assessment has to be at 90% or something of the actual market value of the properties. And with the latest lunatic rise in residential real estate, there were laws in place, federal and state, which used to keep a damper on that. Those laws have been rescinded, and it's one of the things that's driving these crazy increases in prices. And in order to stay within state law, they have to, if you will, fudge the numbers. They have to make the mill rate work with the assessment so that you pay enough to keep the town going. And it's a numbers game, this mill rate versus assessment to comply with state law, and that's really all it is. It doesn't, doing it that way doesn't increase your taxes per se. What increases your taxes is what's voted on at town meeting. But to make the numbers work for the assessors in the state, they have to play with the mill rate versus the assessed value.
And at some time in the fairly near future, we will probably have to have a full reevaluation.
Within 5 years.
Within 5 years,
Rob.
So, what I'd like to do is to get back to the petition, so we could act on that piece of it. There's clearly more information people want and need, and I think we can work on that. But, tonight's not the night on, lessons on how to do all that, because we could stay here all night and keep answering questions on why did they do it that way and how was it done and so on. So, are there any more comments on moving the petition forward that anyone wants to address that have not been addressed? Anyone? Okay. So I guess I would move at this time, that we do not move this petition forward, but we look to come up with a plan based on, other, templates in other towns and look to come back with the beginning of that within 60 days. So that is my motion.
Cool. So the motion includes, so not only to not move it forward, but to look at other.
To look at something
other
and come back
mechanisms.
to start a discussion so that we're moving forward and we're not just saying no and tabling it. We're looking to be proactive.
So there's a motion on the floor. I will
Yes.
second that motion.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay. Bruce?
Maybe to add to your motion, to have the 60 days to come back, but to have something ready to go to spring town March town meeting.
That's, I would amend my motion to have something ready for town meeting. Will you second?
I will
my-
second that, yeah.
Okay, so let's see, we first have to vote on the amendment.
Yes.
All in favor, Melanie?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. And now we'll vote on the petition to not move the petition forward, but come back within 60 days. And to have something ready for town meeting, next spring. So all in favor of that, Melanie?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Okay. Thank you. I mean, I think the fact that we have so many people that signed the petition, thank you for I understand where you're coming from, and I think we need to certainly look at it and address concerns, and I hope you'll be involved in the next process.
I just wanted to thank you. I had 425 signatures overall, almost 200 signed twice. I think there's enormous interest in this issue, and I thank you so much for carrying it forward and hoping to do something to help us.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
We will look to do that. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for all your attendance and for coming. Good to see you. Yeah.
Good seeing you.
Okay. Okay, our next item is the short-term rental ad hoc committee. Lorna, do you want to bring us up to speed?
At your meeting, February 20, you discussed creating an ad hoc committee to work on addressing short-term rentals and how best to regulate. I wanted to bring this back up again, the first meeting in April. So your meeting in April, on the 2nd, you discussed the charge of the committee. And the board agreed to board names for consideration. Select person Peter Russian volunteered to be the participating board member on the committee. The committee currently has 4 members, so that would be Peter, residents Kathy Wall, Laura Richter, and Nicholas Alexander. And I provided you with the minutes as approved, both from the February 20 meeting and the April 2 meeting.
Okay.
We now have two more members on consideration.
We should have, yeah, there are a couple more members that just, we don't have their forms yet, so I don't know. The two that I know of,
Well, say in 2 years, we voted on tonight.
but they're not for the short-term rental. But
Right, they,
Senior.
senior resource.
So.
Trying to steal your committee members.
Unless there are two more that just volunteered sitting in front of us.
I have a
Okay.
question if I could.
Yes,
So we're trying to get to 6, is that right? So we could
Okay.
actually be
two more members at least.
6 members? Yeah.
Yeah,
So okay, I just want to make sure I knew what target was.
right.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so.
Carol?
I-
Hello.
Barbara, yes.
Yes, I think that we need to talk about what Peter's role is going to be on the committee, because we have had some issues about the role of select board members on committees, and that their role should be advisory rather than as a voting member or a chairing member. So while we have 4 members on the committee, I mean, if Peter's not a voting member, we do need to get some
There's
other
2
people
more.
on. I just think we need to, for Peter's sake and for the board's sake, we need to clarify what Peter's role is on the committee.
Barbara, thanks for bringing that up, because I think it is important for, at least in my opinion, for select person who's involved in a committee like this, that in terms of setting precedent, that is not in charge of that committee's overall direction, and be a consultant. To allow that committee to organically evolve, do what they do without sort of influenced by anybody. And I think it's good practice. We can implement that time and time again going forward. So I would be in favor of that myself. So just want to put it out there.
Yeah, so the committee would probably need another chair. Someone other than Peter to chair, or would you chair it but not vote, or?
Well, they have him as the participating member from the select board is the way
Yep.
it's
and that's-
listed here.
I know,
To me,
but that's what I want to question is the select board members' participation, because that has come up as an issue with other committees.
Wouldn't be a chair.
Bruce?
No. So, as this committee goes on, I think some involvement from Dan, me, or Travis. On the short-term rentals, we've been having a lot of issues with a lot of alarms.
With what?
Alarms,
Oh,
Oh,
alarms.
really?
and not be able to get into them. And they're not during the day, they're 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, we can't get in because there's no knock boxes or anything like that. So I think that's, as you guys work on to this, I think
Oh.
you should involve the fire and rescue, so we can have some input. If you're gonna pass some ordinances forward on this, some of the ordinances should have a knock box. On any rental properties, especially short-term, but basically any rental properties, and
Okay. Good thing to add.
Yep.
Any other comments, concerns?
So to be clear, it would be my opinion that the role of the person from the board of select persons in a committee like this would not be a chair. It would be a participating member, non-voting member.
Non-voting member. And in your case, for something like this, a resource, because you have experience.
Right.
Yeah,
On some of that.
you're a resource and you're a liaison between the committee and the board.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Well said. So that would be, I would like to advocate for that.
Okay. Are we comfortable with consensus, or do we want to vote?
Let's vote.
Okay,
But I think
I-
that ought to be set up that way with any committee. So
right.
Agreed.
right,
Let's just do that as a policy.
As a policy. Okay, so I move that a select board member serving on a committee serve as a resource and a liaison to the select board. Not a voting member.
A resource to the committee and a liaison between the committee and the select.
Right,
That. So I second
you
that.
second that.
And I know that Barbara has her hand up.
Yeah. Do you still have your hand up, Barbara?
No, that's okay. I just wasn't sure what we were voting on.
We're voting on the fact that that moving forward,
Right,
The
not just for this, not
number-
just for this committee.
no, that'll be a
We voted on
policy. Yep.
Okay, okay,
All in favor, Barbara,
yes.
Dan,
yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
and I vote yes, so it's 5 yes. Okay, next one is the Senior Resource Committee bylaws change.
I make a motion that we agree with the change of the Senior Resources Committee for the number of members to increase to 50.
I will second that. Any discussion on the change, the increase in members?
So there is,
Know why? Or can I just walk out the door?
You can tell us why, so we can get you on record.
Yeah, we have a couple of members that are snowbirds, and so, it is a volunteer group, and most of the programming that we provide is done by volunteers. And we have had some extra people show some interest, in being on the group, and so sometimes it's, you know, if you have extra people there, then, we can all share in the fun. And
yes.
And Charlene's cooking now.
And Charlene will be doing cooking classes. We haven't told her yet.
Is it 55? Is there like an age for participation? Because I'm right on the edge.
With her?
Is it 55?
It's 55, but it is 55. You know, you can go to McDonald's and you can get a senior coffee.
Is it?
It's 55 over 55.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yes,
you get a
that's-
senior coffee at McDonald's.
Yeah.
I didn't.
You're a senior? I'm a
Yeah,
senior.
that's how I can. own
Melanie,
property.
you're a
Okay.
senior.
I'm not there yet.
You are?
Another month.
Oh, okay,
Right on the edge.
okay, before Melanie jumps off that cliff. All in favor? Melanie,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Dan.
Yeah.
Barbara,
Yes,
and I'll vote yes, so that's 5 in favor.
And
You
thank
go for it.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you for all the work you do, Mary, on that. Okay, well, I'm glad we moved the appointments ahead. So
Smart.
I thank you for indulging everyone in that. So our next one is abatements and supplementals. So if I'm correct, I need to read these first 2 pages. Are we voting individually or all at once?
Individual.
Individuals, okay. I move, that we grant abatement 24-1, Friends of Belgrade Lakes Village, map 25, lot 6. This abatement was decided at a previous meeting. You have a second?
So that abatement paperwork isn't in here? Because I'll be doing the abatement
They all.
as the tax collector. I don't see how much that abatement is for the friends.
Stand by.
It may be,
I don't, there's no
I'm
amount
seeing
here.
2, 3, 4,
There's one
5,
for John.
It was-
and-
not one.
Yeah,
can we check the folder, the sign folder?
it's 1,400.
we already approved it.
We did.
I know, but they want the amount for the record, so.
Well, because I'll be collecting those and keeping
$1,492.45.
What was it, 14?
$1,492.45.
And so that paperwork was done up by Robbie, right?
Yes,
So you have
it's in
it.
there, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in there.
To sign, yep,
Okay. all
they
right.
have all of them to
Alright.
sign.
Okay,
I'll collect those later.
okay.
So I have a process question, just to make sure that we're doing this in accordance with the process been rolling before. So the 2 pages that were listed here that have abatements and supplemental, we're gonna vote individually, one at a time, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah,
All right, so you had a motion on the floor to approve the abatement for the first one.
yes,
So I'll second that,
okay. All in favor, Melanie,
Yes.
Peter,
yes.
Dan?
Abstain.
Oh, you're abstaining, I'm sorry. Barbara?
Yes,
And I will abstain because I did abstain from the vote that night.
Okay.
Okay, I move we approve abatement number 2 for Jonathan Cote, map 17A, lot 6A, it's to correct the land and building assessment. And the amount of the abatement is $391.40.
Second,
All in favor, Melanie?
yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Dan? Barbara?
Yes,
And I'll vote yes, it's 5 yes, oh, I'm sorry. You're abstaining, right?
Abstain.
4 yeses and 1 abstention, my apologies.
I can't abate anything.
You can't abate anything, okay. I move we approve abatement number 2403 for Tammy Kingsland, map 10, lot 27-10, to correct ownership, transferred the lot 27-10 in era. And the amount of that abatement is, whoops, I must be out of order. Is $3,064.70.
Second that,
All in favor, Melanie?
yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Dan? Barbara?
yes,
And I'll vote yes, so that is 4 with 1 abstention. I move we approve abatement number 24-4 for Russell and Virginia Latham, map 10, lot 27-3, to correct ownership. The wrong lot was transferred, and the amount of the abatement is $2,921.25.
Second,
All in favor, Melanie?
yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Dan?
Abstain.
Barbara?
yes,
And I'll vote yes. 4 yeses and 1 abstention. I move we approve abatement 24-5 for Judith Dorsey, map 11, lot 24A. It's to correct the acreage. The amount of that abatement is $12.35.
Second,
All in favor, Melanie?
yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Dan?
Abstain.
Barbara?
yes,
And I'll vote yes. 4 yeses and 1 abstention. I move, we approve supplemental 24-01, Russell and Virginia Latham, map 10, lot 27-3, to correct ownership, the wrong lot transferred. And the amount of that, supplemental tax certificate is $2,921.25.
Second,
All in favor, Melanie?
yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Dan?
I'll abstain. I don't know if I can vote on that one.
Okay, Barbara?
yes,
That's not.
And I'll vote yes, 4 yeses and 1 abstention. And then we have, I move we approve supplemental 24-02 for Lance and Karen Latham, map 10.27-10, to correct ownership. The wrong lot was transferred. The amount of the supplemental tax certificate is $3,064.70.
Second,
All in favor, Melanie?
yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Dan?
Abstain.
Barbara?
yes,
And I'll vote yes. 4 yeses and 1 abstention.
Is that sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't. What you're doing right now is you're doing basically an assessor.
I see.
Assessor.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Okay, and, okay, the next item of business is the seasonal residents meeting. And, Lorna, do you want to give us? a
Sure,
little overview?
so I just, you had already set the date for the 23rd at 6:30 here. All I did was go in and pull the last agenda to use as a draft. So it's up to the board if you'd like to make any changes on this or.
I think we do need to ask Rob if he's available.
Yes, I've got a note in my minutes, I'll do that tomorrow.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think maybe if that takes the place of treasurer tax collector. Because. We don't have, we still have a full schedule.
Yeah.
Nick will be leaving, our new person's not ready, that we just do it.
I'm a tax collector, so.
Does the tax assessors, and take that slot that says treasurer tax collector and see if we can get Rob here.
Maybe it's gonna take more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, that'll take a long time.
Yeah,
It'll take an hour.
I work a lot on the lakes, everybody
That might
knows.
be best, a separate meeting.
I mean, you could-
Solely
I-
designated.
Right, I think it would be good to have him here to explain how the taxation is. And then if there's further questions, maybe he can say, here's, set up appointment when we can discuss it.
He's
separately.
had a lot of people who do make appointments, come in and
Yeah.
speak with him personally.
Right.
I mean, that's the biggest thing is people, which I don't understand because I believe it's done like this in any, all the other states.
Well, it has been, but what happened this last year, Bruce, is the last time that we did the factor revale, we noticed the town ahead of time. And we didn't notice anyone this time. So we came in, we did the factor revale, we discussed it at a board meeting. We went ahead and did it and went up, passed on to the taxpayers with no explanation.
Yeah, that's.
And that's why I think if previously we did this is what we have to do and this is the reason why, so we're gonna do this factor reval. So it buys us a couple more years and then we're gonna do a full town reevaluation. But I think we've gotten away from that and we didn't do an explanation and I think people were surprised. And that's where this petition came from, was the whole surprise factor.
I think also the senior tax stabilization law last year, when everybody's taxes were frozen, so they didn't see that increase.
And then
Their taxes stayed the same, so, right,
And
so
then they got
that
this
got
year's
dropped by the state, and this year
I
we
think
had
that's
an
where the
increase,
percentage
so.
people was going by the percentages is
Yeah.
what they had the year before.
But this year they saw
So
a
it
lot.
looked like a big percentage when it.
They saw
actually
2
wasn't.
years of increases this
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
which was really
It's a
unfortunate.
really good point, good thing to keep in mind.
So, so maybe we put him in that slot and do what you're saying is to give more
Yeah.
a background to how he does it,
And
why
if
it
maybe
does it.
he could have a handout too.
Yeah,
He could
exactly.
prepare something, we could make some copies so they're available for
Well,
people
I
that
think
come.
too, before we do the before reval, we need to do
Yeah.
something in the newsletter, we need to put something on Facebook, we need to put something on all of our media outlets that says. This is what the town is going to be doing, because especially that one, because they're gonna be going to your home.
Mhm.
And unannounced. So,
So usually they
we
have a
wanna
whole
keep 'em safe.
timeline, like they do a postcard, they do a letter, there's this whole camp media campaign before.
Right.
Usually,
We're
most of the
what, 2 years
companies
from
do.
that at this point?
He said 5 years,
Oh,
within
five.
5 years,
Okay.
but you're talking
Yeah.
400,000 to do a
Yeah.
full reval.
You are.
Barbara,
Barbara,
is
I'm
your
sorry.
hand is up?
My hand is up, yeah. I think, I know that, our new, treasurer is just starting on Monday. And this would be the next day, but if she would be available, it would be, she wouldn't, I don't think it would be fair to ask her to say anything, but it would be nice if all the other department heads, are there, that, if she could be there. And if she, if it's too soon, that's fine. But
Ask her to come.
Have a chance to
Just so
just
people
meet her
can
if they
meet
don't
her.
already know
Yeah.
her.
Well, and we
Somebody
can
know yourself.
introduce her,
Yeah.
but let that time slot go and maybe, maybe we give. Maybe Rob could do it 5 minutes, I don't know.
Well, it's a very short notice for Rob though. too.
Right, so.
From
it's
now
gonna be
to
here.
next, what, Tuesday?
Right,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, if he can't, then we should maybe put some of those in high points and say, this is how to get them.
Put you on.
And then if we need another meeting later on, we'll schedule one.
Is it possible to allow him to zoom in if we can't make it, like, can we use the Zoom? Because it would be a good
Of
idea for us
course.
to record the
Yeah.
meeting anyway.
Of course.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
select board meeting, so.
Exactly, so
Of
we
course.
did
We
that,
can
and
zoom-
if he
see-
participated.
I'll
via
offer
Zoom.
him that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
that would be good.
doesn't live in Belleville, so.
Yeah.
He's also got a place on the lake now, so I think he's not always, and he's, oh,
Gotcha.
good about town, it's
Okay.
I had a question.
Yes.
But before I go though, Barbara, your hand is up. Do you have another question?
yeah, I just wanted to, if we're finished talking about the treasurer and assessor, I just wanted to, bring up the question of the, 7 Lakes versus our own Lakes Committee, because, I remember when we had this meeting, the last time we had it 2 years ago, that some of us, we appreciate everything that 7 Lakes does, but they're not a town department. And it just seems that if we have our own Lakes Committee, that it would be appropriate for the Lakes Committee to have that 5 minutes, and they can reference 7LA and the other lake associations and the work that they're doing as a committee. So I would just like to propose that change.
It actually says Lakes and Natural Resources Committee, not 7 Lakes.
Oh, it does.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah,
updated,
which is.
at
Oh, we didn't
7:15
update mine.
at 7:15, because we just did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
can I just make a change? Town clerk / tax collector, then treasurer, and then maybe move Rob in as assessor after treasurer? Cause that,
Treasurer's not gonna speak.
well, she's gonna introduce herself to the public. I would think that she would introduce herself to the public and maybe to those individuals who are present, so she wouldn't have a lot to say except for an introduction, right? Wouldn't that be appropriate?
Well, we could introduce her. I mean, I don't think we need to slot 5 minutes for her.
No, I don't think so either, but I think that because she
Yeah.
is gonna be. the
And we should have a
treasurer.
name tag for her, just so that people
Right,
know who she
right,
is.
and we'll have one for her, so actually
Okay.
I'll order one anyway.
Peter?
So, regarding the treasurer, tax collector, tax assessor, whole topic, when. I think at some point, whether it's this seasonal meeting or another time, to have a timeline depicted. Like what we talked about tonight, where taxes are collected at a certain important part of the year. Well, after the fiscal year starts, town meeting has its meeting, decisions are made, and then that whole thing. If that can be depicted in a timeline, I think that could help tell a story.
Yeah.
So people can understand, oh, I see money ebbs and flows, through this town, and there are periods when it's mighty lean. Right?
Right.
And that could set the stage for understanding if there is a need for whatever has to
Whatever
happen.
has to, yeah.
So just, I'm putting a plug in for a future picture, I guess.
Yeah.
So as tax collector, I used to advertise the different programs that were available for people to participate in. There's the property tax fairness credit. We want to mention the homestead exemption. We want to mention the veterans exemption.
Yeah.
We want to mention the senior work ordinance that is also available, and I am hoping to increase that amount of money because right now it's not. I can't even remember what the funding is. Is it?
I think it's 1,500.
It's 1,500 the whole year, and that's very low. And the other thing is to get other departments involved in using seniors for things like answering phones, because
Yeah.
those are simple things that they can do. Carol actually came in and did folding of newsletters for us as part of. And it's an abatement to their taxes. They don't get a check or anything. but-
It's not, you can't call them.
Well, you can't call
It's
it
not
an
an
abatement,
abatement.
I know.
It
But it's,
alleviates.
Bill, I said that and Bill, our attorney.
yeah, it's not an abatement, so the wrong use of words there, but those kinds of things to let them know that there are things that are available that
Right.
can help in the short term.
Yeah.
And maybe the legislature will get back to something else, which I won't mention, like the stabilization program.
I would love to.
I think that they really
Party with
should,
the-
because
party
I
with the
think
renewal.
shame on them, shame on the legislature.
Yeah. no,
Because you know what, that's half the reason those people were in here tonight, and the people that signed that petition, because. You know, we hear it all the time over the
Right.
counter, we're the people taking money, we hear it, we hear the cry. So what, they own a home that's worth $500,000, a double of their. A retired person's. Taxes, it's still hard.
Yeah.
It's
It's
difficult,
horrible. When you build a house, they may have built it for
right?
$40,000 when they first built
That's
it. And they're still
exactly
living in it, and they're not
Yeah.
planning on selling it.
And
But
what
yet
if,
you gotta pay taxes on what they're valuing that, which is
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous.
right?
Yeah,
So-
Bruce?
So another thing you guys may want to be prepared to answer. Because, so a lot of people don't understand the portfolios. They think that's money that can be expended, right? And I think that needs to somehow, every time we're having meetings, I mean, because I think they think that looking at that one.
Expendable funds.
That's $1.4 million is expendable. It's not. That's
No.
regulated by state law. Those are trust.
Well, and I think the snapshot sort of like, oh, I see it, because some people are learn visually. So when you see it, some people, do it auditory, so makes a difference.
Yeah, the problem is they don't understand, they say by Harbor Trust,
right,
They think it's a trust that's a
right.
hunk of money that the town has, and but yes, we have it. It does
Belongs
have,
to somebody else.
it belongs to somebody else, the interest, up to 10% of the interest, that's what it helps offset taxes.
Okay. Are we all together on the summer residence meeting?
Yes, ma'am,
Okay,
you're in good shape.
we're in good shape. Okay. Is there any other business? Okay. So warrants.
Actually, Carol, got one thing on other, maybe you guys. So there's an issue, I brought it up to Fish and Game, and I don't know where to go with it. So we have a float plane going in and out of Belgrade Stream, which is full of milfoil. So that plane's taking off with milfoil on it. And landing in other lakes and spreading the milfoil. I talked to Fish and Game about it, and they're going, the only thing they're required to have is a sticker, and they're required to inspect their plane. Well, how are they gonna inspect their plane when they're in flight? And the next place they land is Great Pond.
Yeah.
Long Pond. So this,
Did you take the 7 lines to get them on the bandwagon?
no, I haven't,
That's.
but I think I,
They're the ones I'd go to, they'll be the ones that'll be after the state.
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah,
because, I mean, it's a problem, I mean, that's, the stream
I
is.
saw them and
Yeah.
they were flying over and over.
Yeah,
Landing.
yeah, the other thing, coming in 9:30 at night, they came in, it's like,
into
oh my,
the
yeah,
stream.
yeah. And it, I mean,
That's scary.
they're killing waterfowl, if you're on the stream, if you're canoeing or kayaking, because you're on a corner,
It's not
taking off,
wide.
it's not wide enough.
It's not wide.
So you gotta go in the green.
Does anyone know who the person is? Cause
I
it
don't-
may mean,
I don't know the name of who it is.
I mean, it may be just a conversation with that person might help too.
I don't think so.
Well, and
Maybe
his
not.
friend's our harbor master.
Hans, yeah, I
How
can,
about FAA?
I can ask Hans
Yes,
to find out who it is
It's at the end of the Mill
and
Stream Road,
speak with them.
it's at the end of the Mill Stream Road,
End of Mill Stream.
yeah, down
Oh,
in
you're
that,
on Mill Street.
I mean,
It's,
yeah, it's Mill Stream.
If we can find
yeah,
out
it
through.
is
Street.
Mill Street,
Yeah.
yeah, Mill Street's over there.
I know Seven Lakes Alliance, we spend a lot of tax dollars keeping these lakes clean, and that plane's just,
Yeah,
I mean, I see it taking off, I was down my friend's lot, see it taking off, and milfoil just hanging off them as they're flying away.
okay,
So
all right.
now's an appropriate time to bring it up. I was gonna bring it up during the warrant, but I won't bring it up now. As well, because I see on the warrant that we paid for a septic design for the maintenance garage. I don't recall us having a conversation about putting a septic in at the maintenance garage. And so I don't know who approved a septic design that we're gonna pay $550 for because he's done this. But at no point in time do I recall the board being asked about a septic, and I don't know how you all feel, but I don't have any desire to put a septic in at the municipal garage. We have an outhouse at the town meeting hall. We have full flushable toilets here. We have water available in the cemetery. So if they want an inside toilet, I'm down with spending $3,000 on an incinerator toilet. So then all you have to do is dump the ash. But I'm not down with spending $20,000 to $30,000 on a septic for the garage. So I don't know who approved this, but I'm gonna bring it up under unfinished business so that we can find out how this got moved forward.
Didn't we have a conversation about the fact that there was no toilet up there? It's just and no running water, basically, that they just have a porta potty?
We didn't design a municipal garage.
I thought we had this conversation.
We did.
Well, we didn't design the garage for it to be living. It was just a house.
No, but we can't, it's my understanding legally that we are not supposed to have a porta potty there year round.
So that's why I said, if we wanna spend $3,000 on an incinerator toilet and put a closet inside that building and turn it into a small bathroom. I'm down with that, but I'm not down with spending taxpayer money to put a septic system for a municipal garage that when we agreed to the building of the municipal garage, that's all it was going to be was a garage.
So we've added to it, and I get, people need to peer proof while you're on the job. I don't have a problem with the porta potty. But if we want that facility to be able to use that in the winter time, I've spent way too much time looking at compost toilets versus incinerator toilets. And I think anybody would prefer to dump ash as to dump what comes out of the compost toilet. So I'm down with that. They're about $3,000.
Oh, I know we talked about putting water in, once the water system goes in.
I say there's no water, there's no year-round water.
We were talking about with the state, but they put that system in, possibly adding water. I remember that.
Yeah.
So do you want to take a vote and on that, or, and I'll tell Corey.
Well, no, I think we should have a full discussion about it at a board meeting. And then we can decide yea or nay, but that's where I stand, and I was very surprised to see that we paid $550 for septic design, and we hadn't decided that we were gonna put a septic in.
Okay.
So just a quick question, so this all started sure a couple years ago when the garage was built and so on, so.
It's been 10 years.
I know.
That's been in.
Time flies.
Yeah,
I feel like it's.
it's 10 to 15 years, because I think it was done in 2010, the first original.
So now that the garage is there and people do business with mechanics, then there's also.
And other kind
Then
of.
there's also other business that occurs, but I wanted to ask about washing hands. Do they have a hand wash station? Like, no, nothing? No.
There's no water there.
Sanitizer thing in the porta potty.
But that's it, though. There's no like anything else. Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because I've not set foot in there yet.
I just have outside water, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
And did we change the locks on that building as well? Is there a new lock on the municipal garage?
Just the biggest thing is an alarm system there, and not all of us have the codes that has been put into that alarm. Yeah,
Okay, so folks who should have access need to have their code for that.
yep.
Okay,
Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no, we're all good.
all right,
Yes.
okay, so let's start with warrant 75.
Okay.
Which is payroll, 75, it is AP warrant number 75 in the amount of $10,092.25. I move we pay this.
I second that.
All in favor, Melanie?
Yes.
I'll second.
Yes.
Yeah,
sorry.
okay, Peter,
Yeah, yes.
Dan, Barbara,
Yes,
and I'll vote yes, so that's 5 yeses. The next one is payroll warrant number 76 in the amount of $27,984.95.
Second,
All in favor, Melanie,
yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Dan, Barbara,
yes,
I'll vote yes, so that's 5 yeses.
Warrant, the very first warrant, who seconded that?
Peter,
Peter did,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Okay, I move we pay AP warrant number 77 in the amount of $86,143.80.
So I'll second that.
Okay,
Then-
Like your turn.
so, any discussion on the warrant?
No.
This is 76.
77.
7. I don't have it right now.
Flags and cemeteries, sorry, page 5, flags and cemeteries, the flags. I just want a grinder hammer.
What one are you looking at, Melanie?
So the bottom of page 4, we have a grinder hammer miscellaneous. And flags and cemetery supplies. But normally we have a company name there. Of who we're paying.
I mean, unless he reordered flags for, replacement. for it.
Is this the credit card?
Yeah,
I know it's this about time of year we reorder flags, but I'm not
So I
sure
think
if
we
that's
did
what it
before
is.
Memorial Day, because we paid a pretty good chunk for flags, I thought for that.
Yeah, but we order them a year ahead.
Yeah.
Because we've been running into trying to get them that time of year, so we budget for next year's flags, but purchase them this year. I think, I mean, you'd have to ask away for sure, but I think that's what it is. We started doing that, I think, 3 years ago, because it just made it easier on the budget, for us to budget it.
Is that supposed to be, facilities? Oh, cemetery. Cemetery flags, cemetery supplies and facilities supplies, this looks like Obashan hardware.
Would it maybe, any of them be the flags
All
on
could
the
be
road?
flag holders.
Oh,
Brushed aluminum pole,
oh,
yeah, 5-foot brushed aluminum pole.
that sounds like what that is.
Quick question on the Augusta fuel. We have multiple lines like transfer station propane April, transfer station propane April. Why is it multiple lines?
You won't hear that.
Because they're individual invoices, and so you don't pay just one big lump sum, we break it out. Is that what you mean? Is that what you mean?
Probably power.
Oh, is it the reissue because of the,
We had, it looks like a
Leftover.
couple of checks got lost in the mail or they didn't receive them, so we voided those out and wrote a new check.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's something that happened big time. Something went wrong with postal because I sent a bunch of stuff out and now I'm getting.
Yeah,
calls.
that was
Where's my
in
bills?
April, I think.
How about these tank installs?
Well, that was, I flagged that too, Dan, because I thought when we talked to Paul, that we weren't gonna be charged for
That's
the
what I
new
thought.
tank installation. So we're like $1,000 here, we've got a junk tank. And then we have
one, two,
garage tank installation, that we paid $700 and then another $372.
Got transfer station tank, Jimmy. Garage tank installed.
Oh, I was thinking that meant junk, cause I knew we had one wonky one and they were gonna remove that one and then replace it with one that wasn't wonky.
Well, they're supposed to take the one from the garage, move it to the transfer station and install 2 at the garage.
And there is a garage tank installed for June for $706.
So you get charged for the tank.
Yeah, so we must have bought the tank, that's.
We do own all our tanks, right?
Yeah, but probably
Yeah.
you weren't gonna own that one up to the garage. I mean, I'm fine with us owning it because that leaves us the opportunity to
Swap.
shop.
With companies, yeah.
Right.
yeah.
That's why I was in favor of buying our own tanks, you know.
But if we go back and look at those minutes, because I'm pretty sure that Paul stated in that meeting that that was stuff he was worried that hadn't come forward, was that they said they would remove that tank at no charge.
Right.
Do you want me to, check with him, check minutes and then maybe send those to him?
Yeah, or just,
If-
I mean,
if
Paul's
that's-
pretty reasonable, just
He's
give him a
very
shout
reasonable.
and say, gee, should I?
It may have been, it may went by him and went through the bill and all this and never saw it.
He's the general manager, so he's not. He's got other jobs there, so this may have skated by. him.
Right.
But it
Also,
didn't
because of
skate
the
by
fact
us.
that that's not just a fuel anymore, there may be different policies. in place.
Right, that's the other thing is he general manager, but some stuff he doesn't have control over even.
I think he's got control. Cause he would normally say he can do something if he can.
Right.
Well, this may have been about the same time that they were bought out too, like, so.
Well, they've been bought out, but it finally took a kind of took hold. The
Right.
year was up, so
Right.
so in that timeframe.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor, Barbara,
Yes,
Dan,
Yeah.
Peter,
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
And I'm in favor, so that's 5 yeses. We then come to payroll warrant number 78. I move we pay this in the amount of $26,478.88.
I'll second that.
All in favor, Melanie,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
yes,
and I'll vote yes, so that's 5 yeses. And the final warrant is warrant number 79, BMV in the amount, I move we pay it in the amount of, $5,823.11.
Second.
All in favor, Barbara,
Yes,
Dan,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
I'll vote yes. And that takes us through the warrants. So that brings us to town manager report.
Okay. Attended the fire station building committee meeting. At the last meeting, a question arose about other business on an agenda and calling an executive session if not listed on an agenda. So I did research with the municipal officers manual and legal notes from the municipal associations. And here is what their legal team said. Effective July 30, 2004, means right to know law was amended to require every motion to go into executive session to include a citation of one or more sources of statutory or other authority that permits an executive session for that business. C1 MRSA subsection 4054. This is in addition to the longstanding requirement that the motion indicate the precise nature of the business of the executive session. Note that these requirements do not apply to agendas or notices of meetings. And that's from the main councilman in June 2001. Improper executive session, so I pulled that one up and this is what it said. FOAA, freedom of access, authorizes executive sessions, but only for 8 specific subjects, only under very strict ground rules. Going into executive session for an unauthorized purpose or without a proper motion made in a public meeting or making final decisions in executive session are all clear violations of freedom of access. Incidentally, we call these common violations, not because they are frequent, but because they are typical. On the whole, actually, we think local officials have a good track record of complying with the open meetings law. And then from the main townsman, August, September 2009, board meeting agendas, question, are municipal boards legally required to post an agenda for their meetings? And the answer, generally speaking, no, unless required by municipal charter or ordinance or board bylaws or rules of procedure. Maine's freedom of access or right to know law requires public notice of all board meetings, but the law does not prescribe the contents of the notice. And Maine's Attorney General long ago opined that the right to know law does not require notice to include an agenda. Nevertheless, we recommend one or at least a general description of business to be transacted for several reasons. First, an agenda tells both the public and the board what business the board expects to conduct, and in so doing, permits everyone to be better prepared. Second, an agenda lets the public know approximately when, during the meeting, an item of interest may be discussed. Third, an agenda helps ensure the fair, orderly, and efficient conduct of business and can be invaluable aid to the chairman or presiding officer. We also recommend that agendas, besides listing anticipated items of business, include a catch-all item for other business. This is because there is a common but generally incorrect belief that a board may not act on a matter unless it is identified on the agenda. This is true for town meetings and town meeting warrants, of course, but not for municipal boards unless barred by charter, ordinance, or bylaws. Adding other business to the agenda may mollify those who claim that the board's business is confined to the agenda. On a related note, as with posting agendas, municipal boards are not generally required to take minutes either, but we recommend them. And so that was the information I was able to obtain to answer that question. Senator Collins' office notified us last Thursday that our CDS grant application has successfully made it through the subcommittee and now full committee with unanimous support. If we are successful in this grant process, we will have saved taxpayers an estimated $8.6 million, which is the bond principal and interest cost. That's
tremendous.
That is.
Yep.
I contacted the main bond bank to get an estimate. Lisa Klein of Sydney will join our team July 22 as our new treasurer. Lisa currently serves in Sydney since 2020 as deputy clerk, tax collector, and treasurer. She comes to Belgrade with a great foundation of knowledge and experience in municipal operations. The railroad maintenance schedule update, they've updated this, changed it three times, and I think they'll change it again. July 19 will be the Bartlett Road, July 20, the Depot Road, and July 22, the Augusta Road. I had information late this afternoon that they were running behind, and I asked if they were going to change these dates for us. But they could not confirm, and he said that once he knew more, he would, of course, let me know right away, so I keep updating via our website and.
Let's hope like the Bartlett Road, the Wings Mills Road, ain't closed the same day because they're doing extensive work on the Wings Mills Road. In Mount Vernon, just over the Belgrade line, so we have no access to. Portions of the.
As soon as I get it, I'll send it out. I usually send it out to Dan and Travis.
Yeah,
and Danielle.
yeah, you've been sending it to me too.
And if there's an issue, let me know right away.
Yeah, well, I've
And
been
I'll-
keeping an eye on
And
it.
I'll contact them so that we can work around that. I reached out to Dig Safe for records for Town of Belgrade. They said they finally got back to me. I didn't think they were going to. They can go back 6 months and they sent me a report, which doesn't really tell us much, but I included that as part of what I gave you. Yeah.
So these are all Central Maine power lines. Where are the ones from that the town of Belgrade should have submitted for the work on Workman Field, the signage going up in the park, the new permanent sign that I made a point of saying we needed a dig safe application because we were digging in the village green or disturbing.
There's no sign gone up yet. We're
It
ways
was
away
the
from that.
historical sign.
Huh?
The historical sign for the Belgrade Hotel. So.
Oh, for that one?
And
yeah, I don't know. That
Christmas tree. So we were digging in the village green and we have to file an application with dig safe every time we do that, which is why we keep bringing it up. But all I see here is Central Maine Power is the only one.
I don't know who the contractor was that put the
Native
historical,
Notions, I think, installed the granite pieces.
the sign. So they,
Yeah, I think Native.
they
Notions
should
did
have
it, but I don't
filed,
know.
right? As the contractor, I don't know who the contractor was that did the work on Workman Field. It wasn't the town
But
that dug.
so what the contractors is supposed to give you, the town, a copy of the dig safe. That they sent to dig safe and then a report back from dig safe. 'Cause every time you do a dig safe,
Before
you
they
get a,
do it.
right, you get a report back. I know anytime I've done Walmart work, anything like that, I have to physically hand them a copy. No, I've done work in Sydney or Oakland, the same way for the town, so at the end of the dig safe, before any work goes. It's just to protect the town from liability, that's all it is.
So I'll check with Native Notions. And I'll check with Corey, who the contractor was for the Workman Field.
And just one other thing, you wanna make sure Jason does his dig safe or any culverts or anything like that, because I haven't seen any dig safe up on Horse Point Road. It's usually writing on the hot top.
Yeah.
And I didn't see the culvert change up there, I didn't see no writing on. the
I
hot
wonder
top.
if he knows that.
You should, he's a
Sure, it's a
contractor.
I wanna know where the line is for when you have to dig.
Con to the law, I mean, it's like, I'll do digging on my own property, but technically. If any type of digging,
But what? When we go to bury somebody in the cemetery,
Cemetery is exempt.
that's what I said, well, there should be there should be something exactly telling you.
I think they're exempt. It used to be exempt. It may not be now. It's something we may want to check with Big Safe, see if we do.
I mean, hopefully we know we don't have any electrical lines or anything, we're in the middle of the cemetery.
Right.
Yeah, but remember, we're expanding the cemetery too.
Right.
That was that area checked by Big Safe before you start expanding an area.
The other thing is the other thing about the Big Safe, we're gonna have a water line. That's part of Big Safe. You take like Wings Mills Road. Wings Mills Road has underground fiber optics. That's why you gotta be
Yeah, you
careful.
don't want the town getting into that, it'll cost us some bucks,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay, that note, so I'll take care of that. I met with a resident about speeders on the Chandler Road. I had asked recently, Kennebec Sheriff's Office if they had a portable, speed sign. They said they had one, but it wasn't working. But I asked them to put it on Depot Road because they were having issues on Depot Road. One of the gals, who lives toward, the end where Hammond is, her dog got hit. Somebody's speeding. So I had a conversation with her and she had been calling police as, you know, things happened, and I told her I would reach out as well. So they did say they had a sign, but it wasn't working. They finally got a hold of me today and said, we finally got the sign working. We were going to put it on Depot Road, but we saw that there's gonna be railroad maintenance. So if you want it on a different road, we'll put it on a different road for you. It's just, it's one of those signs that flash, right?
I don't know where ours.
It's
Well,
right up, it's right up the.
I think we have one, but we can't get into it. We can't. Because you have to be able to log in online. And do something. I finally figured it out and got a hold of
Maybe-
somebody at the state level.
Yeah, maybe ask Anthony how to get into it, 'cause Anthony was the one that programmed all that.
Because Corey couldn't get into it, I couldn't do
So,
anything.
You may send an email to Anthony, see if he can tell you how to get into it, because he may remember how to get into it, because it's just that up there, it's on the grill and everything.
Yeah, we were psyched for it, because we were like, yeah, now we can put it where we need it.
We asked them too, and they said no.
Right.
Yeah, and Anthony was one that programmed, I'm pretty sure was one that programmed that. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
you have to take they do a free class.
Yeah. I'd love to have it, put a plug in for 12th grade.
Okay.
At
So
some
anyway,
point.
so.
Wings Mills Road, there's all kinds of.
Was gonna put it on Depot, but with the railroad maintenance, they asked if there was another road, I wanted it, and I just had a gentleman come in last week and speak to me about Chandler Road, so I asked them if they would put it there.
On Chandler Road?
Oh. The website, fuel, tree services, and the electrical propane and dry hydrant contracts are all finalized. You awarded all of those bids. And I approved a catering permit for Belgrade Lakes Association for July 27th. I also included the updated notice for the railroad maintenance, and Nick had put together a 6-month snapshot, more in depth than what I gave you. Bruce had asked for that for the budget committee, so Nick had sent that out to them, and I included
much
it
appreciated.
for you all, so that you could have that information as well.
What do we have to find out on the street light stuff? But only those people hanging.
Oh, we denied it last week.
Okay.
Yeah, or last meeting.
And I already let them know.
Right.
Don Martin.
Yeah, there was
Yeah,
nothing, there was no press.
He wasn't here that.
No, he wasn't here that.
And I went over and drove that way, and looked at it. People would cut some of the bushes down in front of that house there. You'd have to walk up one
That,
side.
that one house that's right there,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of trees there.
I think that's owned by that right away, I think, but don't quote me.
No, I think it's owned by I'm gonna say Dr. Geezen's
Old place.
Old place,
old place. I
yeah.
think that's all part of that. So I grew up there, so I covered those
roads a lot. I just got
Okay.
two things. One. I was wondering if Lorna could come up with a meeting night for the budget committee so we can start on the ordinance. So we, 60 days, it's gonna come real fast. So I don't know if that's gonna take you guys to chat or Lorna to do that. For one.
I think the 60 days will be for me to check
Right.
other towns for
Check out towns and get
ordinances.
ideas.
And then that would, I'll bring that to the board, some options for you all to take a look at, for consideration and then kind of
So
go
this
from
is
there.
July, August, so September, and then
'Cause we will-
we're getting in budget season.
I don't
right?
think we'll send out, Nick said he usually sends out, budget information to department heads the end of August.
Yeah, yeah, so we'll be right in that same period.
And just one other thing. We got a new pest control. Why is there so many bugs running around in this?
Yeah, I
meeting
gotta,
room?
yeah, I got a hold of her today.
Okay, cause I don't know what they have for bugs, but
They're beetles. I don't know what they are. We picked up a bunch of them.
is it just in this area? Or is it
It's this building.
the whole building?
Are they
Yeah.
little black beetles called that?
Yes,
one?
yes,
Got them all over my yard at the house.
yeah. I
There's
don't know what
something
they
that's
are.
hatched this year, cause I found a bunch of them around the house.
Oh,
And I've seen them in other
okay.
places too.
And there's, I mean, underneath. it's like, Anything can come in.
Yeah. I just,
Mice.
it just is like I'm sitting here and eating, I'm watching.
Look at the front door when you go out. How much space is on that?
Yeah.
Really?
Because I'm still waiting for someone to come and fix it.
We can't get anybody to come.
I thought he had a schedule with Sheridan to come deal with it.
That's what we finally decided was to try to get them, but as you know,
You ever try to get a hold of Joyce?
I don't know who
So I told
he's,
him to call Joyce.
I don't know who he's
They
tried,
went
he
from
has
Metal
tried,
Beach
he
to
really
Patty's
has
office.
tried many people.
I think with Sheridan would kind of jump on it for that kind of work.
I know. What was that name, LaJoy?
Oh, that could
There's
LaJoy Brothers?
come to do one door. They're small projects, they're not grabbing, that's more of an off-season thing for them.
Well, they always do anything with my wife's office.
That's,
When they put in new stainless steel trim, because I have one that rots out.
yeah, but that's a bigger organization for them to come up. They might, I mean, maybe they've got a job, and give them somebody who can't hurt to ask. Cause we gotta get that, and we've gotta get the handicap thing working all the time.
Yeah.
So,
That door is so bent.
well,
from the
what they wanna
wind.
do is, Corey said that when they come out there to do whatever they gotta do, they're pulling that door out.
Right.
Flip flop
Put
it
it
around,
in.
going the other way.
So.
So the wind blowing the right way, flows it closed instead of open.
Open, yeah, cause that went one of them bad winds, it gets. hooked
Yeah.
that way.
It's
It
awful.
always comes this
It's
way.
awful, isn't it?
It's like a wind tunnel.
It is.
Okay, is there anything else? Okay, so, we wanna take a short break before we do a quick executive session? Anyone need
Yes,
a break?
please.
Yes, please?
Yes, please.
Okay. We'll take a 2.5 minute break. I move we re-enter regular session at 8:45.
Second,
All in favor, Melanie,
yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
I'll vote yes.
I make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
8:45,
8:45. Woo-hoo. All in favor, Melanie,
yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Dan,
No.
Grandma?
Yes.
Grandma say.
Yes.
Yes, heat stroke. No.
And I vote
Too
yes.
early.
It's too early. You silly.
Thank you, Barbara.
Okay, my pleasure.
Congratulations again on that baby.
Yeah, yeah.
He's pretty cute when he's not crying.